The AI revolution is underhyped, and here's why. The arrival of this new intelligence will profoundly change our country and the world in ways we cannot fully understand.
This new intelligence
and
that
none
hasn't
of
shown
us,
up yet,
including myself and frankly anyone in this room, is prepared for the implications of this. What's happening at the moment in our industry is that we're very, very quickly, for example, developing AI programmers, and these AI programmers will replace traditional software programmers. We're building in the next year AI mathematicians that are as good as the top-level graduate students in math. This is happening very quickly. Today you think of AI as ChatGPT, but what it really is a reasoning and planning system that we've never seen before.
Still not intelligence, but sure.
Implication of this is profound. In terms of the way the algorithms work, they're going to need a lot more computation than we've ever had. They're going to need a lot more energy, and I'll talk about that. What does the industry need? We need high skills immigration, light touch regulation around cyber and bio threats, and most importantly, we need the energy. And the numbers are profound.
Bio threats?
What we need from you, if I may say that directly, is we need energy in all forms. Renewable, non-renewable, whatever. It needs to be there, and it needs to be quickly.
Reopen the coal plants. It's a good plan.
I and others are investing in things like fusion, which are incredible, but they're not going to arrive soon enough for the need. So people are planning 10 gigawatt data centers. Now, just to do the translation, an average nuclear power plant in the United States is 1 gigawatt. How many nuclear power plants can we make in 1 year where we're planning this 10 gigawatt data center? Gives you a sense of how big this crisis is. One of the estimates that I think is most likely is that data centers will require an additional 29 gigawatts of power by 2027 and 67 more gigawatts by 2030.
So 67 new nuclear power plants.
These things are industrial scale I have never seen in my life.
Fuck off.
Now, why is this all important?
This is the good part.
When
turn off all regulations.
You build these systems, you have intelligence in the computer, and then eventually human-level intelligence.
No.
Some people think it's within 3 to 4 years.
It's not.
Then after that, you have something called superintelligence. And superintelligence is the intelligence that's higher than of humans. We believe, as an industry, that this could occur within a decade.
Sure.
It is crucial that America get there first.
All right, that's the clip. So they've invented a Cold War with China for a hypothetical superintelligence that there is zero evidence we're anywhere close to. ChatGPT 5 is nowhere near astronomically bigger than ChatGPT 4 in any way that is showing that we are on the same kind of exponential scale as we were. We've hit ceilings. Superintelligence, even if it does show up, is now a thing that we're terrified is going to be something that shouldn't be in the hands of the Chinese or the Russians or whoever. It won't be in the hands of the Russians. They can barely feed themselves. But so we're now in a Cold War with the Chinese to invent this new superintelligence, a thing which no one has agreed we need, a thing which these tech oligarchs have decided is the thing that is going to must happen next. Why? Why must that happen next? No one's voted for that. No one's decided that's the future that we all want. They've just decided that we should get a superintelligence for the sake of inventing a superintelligence. Fuck you. Didn't need to invent the nuclear bomb, but we did. And then we actually at least recognized the threat. And we had the Test Ban Treaty, and we had all of the different things that were put in place to stop the Cold War from escalating and turning into a problem. So right now, you could go and say, let's negotiate with China. Neither of us are going to build superintelligence because it's a terrible threat to who knows what happens when you truly do build this thing, if we can even build this thing. So one, thanks for making choices for us, the fucking 4 of you in Silicon Valley who are making these choices for us without letting any of us have a say in it. At least we got to vote for Nixon. At least Nixon went to China because we voted for him. Like, at least there was a marginal perception of control. There's zero here. We don't get any say in this. 2, his answer is, I need you to turn off all regulations, including bioterror regulations for some fucking reason. Turn off all regulations so we can build nuclear power plants, which usually take us 16 years. We need to build 67 of them in the next 4 years. I'm sorry, Mark Zuckerberg, who can barely get a fucking pair of glasses out the door, is the person who's going to go and be put in charge of quickly building 67 nuclear power plants? This is insane on every level. What the fuck? Absolutely not.
I'm getting it's just the super intelligence is needed to answer the questions, right? So it will feed itself, right? Like it's going to solve the power problem for us.
If it was going to do that, then they wouldn't be terrified of China getting it first.
No, because this is early days. I think the Cold War, by the way, the race with China is good. It's competition, right?
China's focusing on a completely different version of this, which doesn't need 67 nuclear power plants, but we're not willing to. But this is the problem, is the entire capitalist system here is under the sunk cost fallacy, which you've already poured $1 trillion into this thing. And so we couldn't possibly adopt all of the low energy models that China is producing. We have to continue to double down. You could cut a bunch of data center requirements in half if you said you were going to use Chinese models, but you're not. You're going to double down on your bad technology, your energy inefficient technology, in order to do a thing you're not even sure you can do. It knows that superintelligence is actually 10 years away. It's a guess based on current scaling, and current scaling is hitting a ceiling. So everything about this is bad business decisions made by dipshits who have no plan for the future, asking for the world. They literally want more energy than entire countries produce so that we can have things which are not yet superintelligence. And it's insanity. Every choice along the way is bad.
Two things. One, maybe China has won in 200 years, and that's okay, right? Like that's, they win this Cold War, they get the super intelligence, they can power everything, they move exponentially faster than any other country, and China wins and they take over everything. Two, I'm thinking now covering the moon with solar panels, at least on the side that, I know it all gets sunlight, but covering the moon in solar panels and getting that energy back to Earth. If Musk is listening, it sounds feasible.
Definitely feasible. We'll just plug in a very long extension cord.
Really long extension cord. They used to talk about a lift to space, but I joke, but we gotta do this.
Why? Who decided that superintelligence was the necessary next step? Why did technologists get to decide that for us?
Because we're so bad at everything else.
And if you're wrong,
superintelligence has to take over eventually.
If you're wrong and it's Skynet and its solution to world hunger is that no humans need to eat.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Sure.
That would be poetic justice. That would be poetic though, right? Like, hey, we created superintelligence that actually recognized we're a really scummy species, right?
That's Alanis Morissette irony. It's not poetic justice. It is dipshittery, killing all of us for the sake of a couple of billionaires getting to be in charge.
You'll live out in the forest. You'll have a house. You'll sit around with your buddies and do art and stuff. It's just going to be different. That's all.
No one asked for it. Why do we not get to have a say in this?
Yeah, the bit about them destroying your planet and
right.
That's kind of I can see why you'd be upset about that, but
yeah, you could argue that the voters really didn't have a choice. No one knew FDR approved the Manhattan Project or that Truman was going to drop the bomb. But at least in theory, over time, voters started to appreciate what was going on. And I don't know that I'd say democracy really solved the nuclear problem, but at least it was better than frickin', I don't know, Rockefeller being the one in charge of that. Raging anti-Semite, I think. Rockefeller.
He had good dances, though. They always had a good show.
Rockettes.
The Rockettes, yeah.
Sure. At Rockefeller Plaza?
Yeah, Rockefeller Plaza. And they got
Is Radio City Music Hall actually Rockefeller? Anyway.
But yeah, we just go, man. We just go, right? We just go to space. We just go to the moon, and then we just go to Mars, and we just go. We just kick open doors. That's human nature, right? And that's what they're doing. They're just kicking open doors. They're not doing it perfectly. Like you say, China has these models that cost less and don't need as much power resources. And at some point, critical mass, cause and effect, someone will get burnt and we'll evolve again. And that's what we do. We kick open doors, because your way of evolving requires like a God on earth to be
It simply requires us to learn from history. I don't need a God. I don't need religion.
No.
I just need us to learn.
But the challenge But you don't live in a country where if you vote for the Democrats that they're going to conscientiously do stuff, right? You live in a country where there's a little sway on some of the policies you care about, but like both parties are going to go and do these things and they're all going to insider trade over this stuff, right? So,
but that's the fatalism that leads to, no, that's the Republican project for the last 40 years, is to convince you that everybody's corrupt and therefore the fact that your guys are the most corrupt doesn't really matter because they're all corrupt. We don't have to live that way. And this is the fundamental.
No, I agree.
Right.
I agree.
You're
We
just
don't have
saying
to
we
live that
suck and we're
way.
going to.
But it becomes, as soon as it becomes a political conversation, then I disagree. And this is what I'm saying. If people can organize themselves enough and realize that they have power in numbers right now of all times,
Yeah,
we are never going to do it.
yeah.
Never. It takes big things to bring this country together. And I just don't see the optimistic version.
And I am hoping for the optimistic version. I am hoping to appeal to the people's greater sense. We've done it in the past. We could do it again.
What does that look like, though? No.
And it starts with not voting for the current batch of Democrats. It starts with actually voting for actual people who want to do real things. Primary Chuck
Right.
Schumer, primary Hakeem
But-
Jeffries, primary all the collaborators in the Democratic Party. You could find the Obamas of the future, the Zoran Mondamis, the AOCs. You could find the people who inspire people to action and actively change this. It's a hard uphill battle. I'm not saying it's not, but it could take collective community action.
Let me ask you a question. Will you be okay in your life if you only move the dial 0.1%? Or do you want to move the dial more in your own lifetime? It goes back to the leaving a legacy. It's not guaranteed to be your legacy while you're alive, right? Like Galileo and all of these artists throughout time, right? Like they're appreciated many, many years after their death. So if you just move the dial a little bit in your life, are you going to be okay with that? Or are you saying like you need like big movement? You need not global, but you need national consciousness to...
Do you think part of this is a global consciousness? The UK has been overrun by the same right-wing media architects, and their talking points about the UK are identical to the US these days. But I don't think the people who achieve even the 0.1% dial think about the 0.1%. I think they hope for the 30%. So I think
Yes.
you have to always want the 30%.
Yeah. But you have to know what it looks like, though, right?
Sure. I know
So
what it looks
that's-
like.
Oh, yeah. So then you go do it, right? You go find the people who are going to make it a reality.
Sure. Yeah.
You just need $1 billion to get a seat at the table.
mean, this is the problem is I am happy to do what I can in my local Seattle community, but I don't have this channel needs to become wildly popular so I can start to influence beyond my Seattle city councilor who I yelled at in my
You did. You got into the city council. Nice.
came to our building to talk about things. And I was like, homelessness is a thing you could choose to solve by not spending $150 million on shelters and just giving people the money directly. But that's not what anybody wants because all of the local businesses don't like the idea of actually having to pay 2% more to accomplish that. Jeff Bezos is a cancer on the world and should be taxed out of existence.
Jeff Bezos?
Yeah.
AWS? Amazon?
Yes. Bad
I love
person.
I love shopping on Amazon. Sometimes it's the best part of my week. Like, why are we going after Jeff Bezos?
Because he and Elon Musk and all of these billionaires are horrible people doing terrible things to employees in the economy. $70 million for a wedding in Italy where you bought out an entire town? Guillotine.
Job creation.
No, job loser. Purposefully trying to get rid of people. Right now, there are things that they do to their warehouse workers, the drones that they're trying to replace them with. They're about to fire a bunch of middle managers in a short-sighted vision to try and, it's bad
I don't
people
get it.
from top to bottom.
If humanity collapses because they let enough white-collar workers go and capitalism crashes and burns, we'll get to your utopia quicker. So why don't you just want the version that I'm saying is going to happen?
Because the human suffering involved in that is a horrifying scale. And there's human suffering now. And this is the argument I had with people who didn't want to vote in the 2024 election because Kamala wasn't going to come out as being, anti-genocide in Gaza. And the answer is there is X amount of suffering in the world now. I can vote for the status quo and hope that the person who I vote for is going to reduce it a little bit in the ways that I hope that they would, but they're not going to reduce it 100%, and they're not going to reduce it in the ways that you hope that they would. Guaranteed, putting Trump in office is going to increase the suffering of human beings across the planet. So I'm going to vote against. I'm harm reduction, not necessarily going down from where we're at, but at least not increasing it. Being able to say, at least my path doesn't drastically fling us into the sting in the gap immediately. And we're going to talk about this in some future episode. Poverty is one of the highest killers of people in the world. And the bloodbath that comes from doing all of this, they don't care because they're insulated. They've got their bunkers that they've been building in South America.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's Susan
I feel
Sarandon
like-
in 2016 saying she wasn't going to vote for Hillary because if she'd gotten her way and Bernie had been the candidate, she'd have voted. But if it's Hillary, well, then the alternative is she'll just watch it burn down faster. And it's like, fuck you, Susan Sarandon. You get to live in your Hollywood Hills mansion and not have to suffer any of the consequences of what the Trump presidency has done to people for the last whatever, however many years we've had to suffer through this nonsense. So, no, I am never going to be in favor of hastening drastically larger amounts of pain in the short term.
It goes back to what I said to you before, though, right? It's about like, I used to think my legacy had to be while I was alive. And I realized I was like, oh my God, I could write a book that's not in fashion for 300 years,
Sure.
right? And I could create a piece of music that's not pleasant to listen to for 500 years, right? So it's been okay with that legacy. And if our generation's only responsibility was to suffer, wow, if the end result of the journey, if the destination is good, we were a generation that suffered, and a few generations that suffered for the greater good, right?
But I don't get to make that choice for everyone else. And even if all of us voted for that to be our choice, this is where like democracy is actually bad sometimes. Like the wisdom of the crowd or the masses or whatever that phrase is actually sometimes bad. Mobs make bad decisions. Okay, 51% of us vote to inflict massive global suffering. That is not an acceptable moral choice just because a bunch of us decided to not have morals and vote for that choice. There is no scenario in which one person or a majority of people deciding to inflict massive global pain on people is the acceptable outcome.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're right. It's just that's the way the world is set up, right? It's like, I don't know.
And I can be
But
against
people
that.
people who complain about taxes and stuff, and I'm always like, I don't know. We've been on this planet long enough to know, like, yeah, sometimes you're getting stuffed. It just is what it is. Health insurance, stuffed, life insurance, this, that. Stuff is more expensive. When you go to the sale and they're like markdowns, it's like, yeah, but on Friday night you probably marked it all up. So when you marked it back down, it's probably same price it was. It's like,
I can tell you've never worked in retail because the effort it would take to go and mark up everything just to mark it down the next day, they can barely get markdowns out the door.
I'm just saying,
I'm
it's
just
like
saying.
the shitty sales.
I'll go, the next clip we'll react to, we don't have, like, we've been recording long enough, I've got enough clips, but one of the clips I'll have us react to is this guy who went and did the math and realized everything about living in Sweden is better. The taxes are higher, the crime rate in Sweden is the highest in Europe, but it is drastically lower than anywhere else in the US. Like, the guy did the math. You could choose to live in a society with high taxes and with all of the things that you complain about, and actually, it's pretty damn good. We'll react to that clip next time.
While Sweden ranked highly in global happiness surveys, this happiness can be a mixed picture due to social challenges. Somebody's not happy in Sweden.
Sure, the racists who don't like that they have immigrants living with them, which unfortunately I do think. I think this is also the part of the problem I have is I actually was raised in a multicultural community it was San Francisco, and it was as multicultural as you can get in the Bay Area, but genuinely, like, I wasn't the minority in my class, but I certainly was surrounded by a bunch of different types of people. And when you grow up in that environment and you actually buy into the mythology of the melting pot of the United States, it's a myth that's not real. The US is deeply racist, and the actual idea doesn't actually work in execution very often, but there is a version of the US which is genuinely none of us belong here. The Native Americans are the only ones who actually have any kind of right to be on this land, but the rest of us are here, and you're not going to deport 330 million people. So what do you do about that? What do you do about all of the African Americans who were brought here against their will? What do you do with all of the immigrants who came here looking for a better life because the story to the rest of the planet was so good? We are a melting pot in the way that the rest of the world is not. Sweden is, I would have to imagine, 80, 90, 95% white. Whiteness being a construct that doesn't exist. They're 95% Swedish. Effective ethno-states within Europe do end up not facing some of the challenges that we face because you don't find out you're racist because you're never encountering a situation to be racist.
Exactly.
So there are problems that we have.
Yeah, one of the first articles is like,
Sure.
you know, Sweden is supposed to be the happiest place. I don't, you know, as a black woman living in Sweden for 15 years, I don't agree. And so,
Sure.
yeah, it's like, I often look at like those, you know, Scandinavian countries and it's so happy, but I don't know. Like, I know what it's like, gray sky Europe. And it's just such a hard measure to say this is the happiest country in the world, right? Like, I don't know. They don't look that happy when they're playing football.
Sure, that's an important metric. There are qualifications to the happiness, and I think people underestimate the power of racism. And I think people underestimate the power of differences and the way human beings are evolutionarily designed to react to difference. And we've consciously chosen as a society sometimes to try and chip away at that problem, but it is a fundamental thing that we will always constantly struggle with in this country, but we could do better. We know what it looks like to do better, and letting the racists win is not the answer. And would Sweden face similar issues? Possibly, but it's really easy to point out that all of the attacks in the 80s against the welfare state were just racism. It was just making white people think, well, that black person's different and they're getting a handout from the government. You're getting the same handout, Karen. You're getting the exact same benefit. You just got told a story that this black person was abusing the system. And so you reacted and you had the handout taken away, both from the black person and from you, dumbass. Yes, racism is at the core of everything. And a bunch of conservative people don't like thinking that because they thought Martin Luther King solved all racism, but they didn't. And I don't know what the answer to that is other than calling out the racism and saying, stop being racist.
In my reality, right, in 30 years, I wear augmented glasses and people look however I want them to look. Green alien. This is why I like the virtual world. And I just struggle with human beings. And I like the idea of AI filling. It's like the Superman glasses, right? They introduced it in the new movie. Anybody who is looking at him through his glasses, the hypno glasses. Well, that's a beautiful world, man. Maybe we weren't supposed to walk around like this. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we'll never see eye to eye as long as there's differences. So maybe wearing augmented glasses with AI and it fills it in to my preference. Maybe that's the way we all get along.
I recommend you watch the Doctor Who episode from the first season of The Black Doctor, where the world is full of people who exist literally in their bubbles and get eaten by aliens because they don't know how to physically cope with being in the world when they don't have their bubbles around them. The minute you find out that your neighbor that you love is actually this thing you've never seen before, which is an Asian person, and you lose your mind and become racist again, like,
that's what I'm saying. But
you should just make people.
You should. Yes, but this is the thing, right? Like, okay, so
your glasses are surgically installed into your head, so you can never take the glasses off.
So now you're getting somewhere, right? Like, as babies, put the chip in right away. Matrix, plug them in. Like, you don't need to be walking around the planet. You could just stream it all in. Stream it all in.
I'm an example of a person who didn't need a chip installed in their brain that could be controlled by a corporation, by the way. That'll, like, you've skipped over the capitalism part of this. I simply had to grow up in the Bay Area surrounded by different people, and I grew up great. This is the thing we could solve. Solution is actually the reason why conservatives hate people going to college is because it turns out when you go to college and you're surrounded by people who are different than you, it's not that you got liberally indoctrinated. It's that you found out, oh, that black girl is just better in econ than I am, and she's kicking my ass, not because she got a government handout, but because she's just smarter than I am. Everything I was taught was a lie. When you're simply surrounded by people who are different than you become a better human being. And the insular nature of being stuck in these bubbles that people live in an all-white town or an all-white county or an all-white state, creates the ability to have these problems form. Like, I am not an elected politician because my answer would probably be forced relocation. Busing in Boston was good, actually. All of the racist parents were wrong. You should move and mix kids in their schools and have them go and exist with one another in different places and realize there's not that much different about us. Yeah. Like, these things are solvable without technology and without things that can, we know how to solve these problems.
Thing. It's just... mine's a setting. Mine's a setting, and yours is not going to happen.
But I know it can, because blue states do it all the time, and we could choose to do that. I will say Massachusetts is wildly racist for being an incredibly blue state. I'm not going to hold up all blue states as perfect, but I know it's possible without the technology. And by the way, you haven't solved the fact that Elon Musk turned Grok into Mecha Hitler on a random Tuesday. So you haven't solved the idea that Elon Musk on a random Wednesday is going to flip your Neuralink switch, and he can see that it's still an Asian person, and he can see that that Asian person said something mean about him on TikTok, and so now he flips your brain switch to see that person as an ugly monster who's undateable and you never want to talk to again? No. You have not solved the core problem. These guys are monsters.
I've checked the box, do not auto-update.
That's absolutely going to be a thing.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable that we become one with the machine.
You haven't solved all of the problems in the current system to get to that future.
No,
and I don't
of course we haven't.
Will.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like we
if
just
you
have
get
to be happy
fantasize
in
about
our
a future,
lifetimes.
This is what I'm saying, though. You get to fantasize about a future where all of these magic problems are solved, but I'm not allowed to fantasize about a future where I don't need magic's technology to solve them, and we can just choose to do it as a society.
You can.
So my dream casting is not realistic, but your dream casting is totally valid.
No, but your dream casting goes against everything we've done and that we've documented for thousands of years. We just suck.
My lived experience tells you that that's not true. My lived experience.
But you're in your little groups. You're in your little group, right?
California is the most populous state in the country. It is the fourth largest economy in the world. It's possible for a mass group of people. What we have are structural problems within the U.S. that we could,
What are they going to do?
Problems.
How are you going to rally a state? What's the action you're going to give them? That's the problem, right?
Sure. All I'm saying
is the bit I'm doubtful of.
Yeah, but you're doubtful because you're dismissing real world scenarios as non-existent and therefore not replicable. And I'm saying
no.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you that the likelihood of our current trajectory going down that path is a smaller likelihood. I'm simply saying it's a greater likelihood than you're giving credit for because you don't exist in the California multicultural bubble.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I would jump on board and help you if there was we should do that. And but nobody's saying that, right? People are just saying we're going too fast. It's so there's nothing. Yeah, cool. So
there are plenty of people.
So when there's a bus running alongside that's slightly slower that I can climb off of this one that's going to explode, let me know. But right now, this is getting me to work. I'm moving forward. So
there are plenty of people saying that. Another thing we have to deal with is the media consolidation that every single news network is owned by one of 4 billionaires who don't want you to hear about the people who are talking about these kinds of things. That's another problem we need to figure out in our society. Is another reason I need Warren Buffett to give me $10 billion so that I can go and buy up Clear Channel and break them up and solve a bunch of problems that way too. We have many issues. I'm not saying it's an easy problem to solve.
Yeah. But I'm definitely going to help you if you figure out, if you get some good ideas, you Californians, I'm all over it. I'm definitely going to help.
Nice.
Suppose that AI is going to produce a bounty of the things that humans desire, and that's going to be what growth is. How will it get to the humans if the humans don't have a job? And if the humans don't have a job, why will AI be? So in other words, if there's no consumers to buy my cars, why am I building cars?
You might be assuming there's some UBI or some sort of...
No, I don't need to assume that. Although, I mean...
Let's assume there's not that.
Yes, I don't need to assume that. It seems like you're saying, look, if 99% of consumers are no longer consumers, where's this economic activity coming from?
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, okay, if one person cares about colonizing the galaxy, that's generating a lot of demand. It takes a lot of stuff to colonize the galaxy. So this world where even if there's not an egalitarian world where everybody's roughly contributing equivalent amounts of demand, the potential for one person alone to generate this demand is so high enough that
So Sam Altman tells his infinite army of robots to go out and colonize the galaxy. We count that as consumption. We put a value on it, and that's GDP.
Yeah, or it might be investment. Maybe he's going to defer his consumption until once he's after colonize the galaxy. Okay. Yeah. No, and I'm not saying this is the world I want. I'm just saying just think about it physically. If you're colonizing the galaxy, which you can do potentially after AGI, I mean, I'm not saying it'll happen tomorrow after AGI, right? But there's a thing that's physically possible. Is that growth? Something's happening that's explosive.
Maybe. The thing is that it's a very weird world. It doesn't look like the kind of economy we've ever had.
Right.
And it's not, we created the notion of GDP to represent, people exchanging money for goods and services, people like basically exchanging their labor for goods, exchanging the value of their labor for goods and services. That's at a fundamental level, that's what GDP is. We're envisioning a radical shift of what GDP means to a sort of internal pricing that a few overlords set for the things that their AI agents want to do. And that's incredibly different than what we've called GDP in the past.
All right. That's the clip.
I didn't really understand the guys.
Yeah, this is the thing I have is like these guys talk about weird abstract bullshit. Like what happens in a future where GDP means how many robots I send to go do a thing? Like what are you talking about? Still haven't like they skip ahead to this magic world where like, oh, the commerce of the future is compute and my AI agents pay your AI agents by saying you can use some of my compute tomorrow. And it's like you dipshits haven't solved the problem where I still need to pay the electric bill. So is the electric company now somehow getting paid in AI compute? These people who are in charge, like that's A16, that's Andreessen Horowitz or whatever the big Silicon Valley investment group is. These are the people trying to determine the future of our world. And their answer is in some magic future with GDP invented by 4 overlords. We're good. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? This stuff should concern everyone that these are the dipshits talking about our future is the ones who have no idea how to bridge the gap. They have no idea how to get over the fact that at some point you stop paying people in what? US dollars? US dollars convert from, US dollars are meaningless right now because we went away from the gold standard and it's all just vibes of how much nonsense value we're producing for ourselves. But what is the solution here? Zuckerberg still has to pay the electric company. Are we saying Zuckerberg owns his own nuclear power plants and now doesn't have to pay an electric bill? There's so many steps that get skipped in these conversations. And I'll find it. I've got another example of guys talking about this post-future where money is not a thing. Cool. What does that mean? How do I buy groceries? What are you talking about? Like the reason I brought this clip up is like, these are the guys in charge of Silicon Valley investment, and that should be terrifying.
Yeah, I didn't really understand his argument. It wasn't, I didn't think it was a good one, even if I kind of think I understood it. And I do agree. Like, I think right now with capitalism, there's a really weird situation. I'm trying to figure out how are the corporations who are tied to the shareholder value, right? Like, you let 100,000 people go, and a lot of them are your consumers, right? But you've got to you're doing that for operational cost reasons, right? So yeah, cool. We let all these people go. We saved a bunch of money, but it's like, but your revenue's taking the hit. So what are you doing? Like, it's a weird algorithm. He's right. It all changes. Everything changes.
But that's the thing. He came really close at the beginning, which is I have all these AI agents helping me make cars, except consumers no longer earn a salary. So who is paying for the car? Like, that's the fundamental disconnect here that they haven't tried to figure out. They're just like, well, in some magic future, AI something. And it's like, okay, but you guys are just barreling into the future. And I know you don't mind this. We evolved through change or whatever bullshit. But like, okay, but like... How? Somebody needs a plan for this.
I feel so insulted. It's not that I think that's the best way to do it. I just think that is the way we do it, right?
But shouldn't we be concerned that the people who are in charge of spending 1% of GDP right now on AI have no plan, have no idea how they think they're going to change the entire thing?
I mean, but in our
so why are we letting
years,
them? Why are we letting them?
Because we think about all the other things we allow them to do, and we have done for 49 years of my life, right? Like politicians, and like in England, you can get a speeding ticket without even having human interaction because they can calculate the time you left this city and arrived here. And there's no way you could do that without breaking the speed limits. Cool. I self-incriminate myself by paying a fine that I received in the mail, and we let them do it. Like, the Brits are exploited. I've always said that, right? And a lot of Europeans are exploited, and now the Americans are going to experience an exploitation like the rest of the world. And change will come from that.
Has it come for England? Has it come for the UK? Is France currently going through an economic crisis because they can't get the pensioners off the pension because they all literally... France will burn down a city block if it needs to stop the politicians from doing anything. So has change happened in the last 40 years? Or is it going to take somebody actually consciously trying to make some of this better? And no one currently, no politician, no tech oligarch, no one is interested in figuring out what the solution to that is. So is the answer pitchforks and guillotines?
I'm just saying, like, something will give.
The French will
right?
lead the way. The French can bring back their greatest asset.
They're pretty good. They're pretty good at blocking the highways with their trucks. I do like it when the French do that. But yeah, like it's a really weird time in history, right? Like how the population reacts. Look. 20 years ago, I said if everybody could just band together and take one day off work, it would scare the corporations shitless. But we don't rally as a people, right? And right now it's like the worst time in history because we're so polarized politically. It's like if you try to make an economic argument, it's like you're a socialist, you're this, you're that, right? So it is the perfect storm, and there is no one person who's going to come out and talk sense, right?
I mean, COVID effectively did that. COVID effectively did that. Basically rewired the economy for 18 months and employees had full control. We got down to like 2 or 3% unemployment and they called it full employment, and the capitalists lost their minds. The capitalists absolutely freaked the fuck out because full employment means you can't exploit your workers. They can immediately, like, it is good for corporations to have a high unemployment rate because it means you can just simply fire somebody and find the replacement that you need and pull them in. So COVID started to do this, and everything about the last couple of years has been a reaction to employees having a little bit more say and a little bit more control. And there was a version around June of 2021 where we could have all figured out how to have a better world, and the corporations immediately stepped in and were like, nope, that's not what we're going to be doing. And all of a sudden, AI shows up and is able to threaten to replace workers. Like, there's a direct line between COVID work from home policies and AI suddenly getting the due that it is getting from all of these corporations and being forced on everybody. We had a tiny bit of class consolidation and conscientiousness. What's the word I'm looking for? Class consciousness. And it was immediately killed. Yeah. Sure, we could all do better.
I'm the guy on the plane who already has a parachute while you guys are still trying to save it, right? I'm like, because the first thing I did was went to the back of the plane and grabbed myself a parachute because there weren't that many, right?
You don't have a parachute. You're just sitting back. You're sitting at the back.
But you're looking for
sitting at the back of the plane, drinking the little mini bottles of alcohol, going, well, if we're going down, I might as well.
Yeah. I'm doing that, but I got my parachute on first, right? And the opportunities, like looking for the opportunities in the chaos now, those are the parachutes, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Because let's say Kevin does succeed in the new world and he finds that opportunity and he becomes a billionaire. Now you can go do the social things you want to do. Now you're playing. Now you got a seat at the table, right?
This is capitalism's greatest trick. The devil's greatest trick was convincing you he didn't exist. Capitalism's greatest trick was convincing you you'd one day be a billionaire. You're never going to be a billionaire. Stop banking on the hope that you're one day going to be a billionaire and do the things now that benefit you now.
I like that dream. I love the American dream.
It is a toxic, awful dream.
The American dream is toxic and awful. I love the American dream.
The American dream used to be a better future for your children than you have. And right around the 80s, Reagan turned it into, fuck the poor, you could be rich too.
It's like that line in Jerry Maguire, first class used to mean a better meal and now it means a better life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're going there. Everybody needs to be looking for the opportunities now in the chaos because we're all going to be in the chaos. And that's when the brilliant minds will find ways and say, hey, come do this, come do that.
Or we could just stop the chaos. And I know people should bond together and we're never going to come together as a society, blah, blah, blah. But I will say, you watch the videos, all it takes is 10 people showing up on the street and telling the ICE agent to let that man go. Those ICE agents are cowards. They panic at the fact because there's more of us than there are of them. And those videos are deeply inspiring. There are things that we can do when we all come together and take action and resist this bullshit. And I just wish it could find a critical mass.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with the policies, but I am saying law enforcement officers, God bless
cowards.
The law enforcement. Oh,
The worst people are ICE agents. The people who couldn't cut it as a cop. You couldn't cut it as a cop. You couldn't cut it in the National Guard. You couldn't cut it in the Army. You're an abusive husband who gets off beating your wife and children, and you want to do it to other people. You played Grand Theft Auto too much. You played Call of Duty too much, and you wanted to take it out on brown people that you don't like. ICE agents should better hope Trump never lets Democrats back in office. They'd better hope we don't vote for the type of Democrats who are going to send ICE agents to jail.
Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Just so you know, I feel the opposite, not exactly the opposite of Kevin, but
yeah,
I don't have much of an opinion on ICE agents. I guess if they show up here, I would.
Is it? Yeah, because you're in the wrong legal status.
They're just following orders, all right?
Good. That's an excuse that's worked out well in history. Definitely never heard that at the Nuremberg trials.
I know, but it's
Do you
hard.
think that
they got families?
I don't care about their families.
I
don't care about their families. They're bad. The poor families. The likelihood that you're an abusive dick, pretty high if you're in ICE. Pretty high if you're in ICE. So you didn't go through training. You got recruited because Stephen Miller is a fascist who needed to beef up the ranks as quickly as possible. And so you got zero training. And so the other day in Chicago or Portland, one of the two, you showed up, chucked a tear gas grenade out of a car window at a crowd of people for no reason. And children at the elementary school across the street were at risk of getting chemical poisoning because you're so bad at your job because your dick is small. Sorry that you've got a small dick and you watch too much porn and you wish you could beat up everybody in the world to compensate for the fact that dad never hugged you, but none of those are my problems, and fuck off.
I have nothing to say.
No.
Just, oh my goodness, dude.
All right.
You're so gonna get shot one day. Oh shit.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us on this episode of Acceptance Criteria. To read articles that we've written on similar topics to the ones we talk about here, head over to the blog at acceptancepod.com. And a quick reminder, whether this is your first episode or you've been listening for a while, we wouldn't say no to your going and dropping 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leaving us a nice review. And if you want to leave us a bad review, remember the name of the podcast is The Basement Yard. Also, tell your friends if you like the show and that they should check it out. Some of the best podcasts out there go by word of mouth, and we'd much appreciate it.
And a friendly reminder that we're always interested in hearing questions directly from you, our listeners, especially for our segment User Stories. If you've got a scenario you'd like help with, whether it's working with a problematic engineer or product team member, trying to navigate the never-ending pitfalls with agile processes, or you just can't understand why your favorite app is evolving away from what drew you to it in the first place, we're here to talk it through with you. You can send those questions to acceptancepod@gmail.com or submit them on Discord in the User Stories channel, and we might be able to help on a future episode. And we're happy to keep it anonymous so that no one can trace it back to you if you end up shit-talking a coworker or something.
For now, I'm Kevin Thomas Euland, and you can find me on most apps at kthomaseuland. That's ULLAND.
And I'm Andrew Greener, and you can find me on most apps at Criteria Greener. That's GREINER. And this has been Acceptance Criteria. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you.